You in my seat now. Did I say something?
Matter, you lose your dress? My brother's 5 years old. He doesn't fall for this.
The story begins with Tommy Riley, a high school student who is abruptly uprooted from his familiar life and forced to relocate with his father due to unforeseen circumstances. Their new home, however, lies in the heart of a deteriorating neighborhood plagued by gang activity, where daily life is a constant battle for survival. On his first day at the new school, Tommy becomes the target of a group of local teens intent on harassing him. To make things worse, he soon realizes that 3 of his bullies are classmates, making his new reality even more challenging. As the new kid, Tommy had no intention of stirring up conflict with the school's troublemakers. When a group of students asked him to change seats not once, but 3 times, he quietly went along, hoping to avoid any drama. But by the 4th demand, his patience wore thin. Refusing to budge, Tommy stayed put, meeting the bullies' irritated stares with quiet defiance. The atmosphere grew tense, teetering on the edge of confrontation until the teacher walked in just in time, calling the class to order and diffusing the situation. The bullies backed off reluctantly, but not before warning Tommy that they'd deal with him at recess. Sure enough, they showed up during the break, this time with reinforcements, hoping to intimidate him further. But once again, luck was on Tommy's side. A rival gang arrived and stepped in, halting the confrontation. At this school, gang rivalries had become a daily spectacle, and one-on-one showdowns between gang leaders, egged on by crowds of students, were now a familiar sight. In these fights, no one thought twice about pulling a blade. Everyone, including the teachers, knew that one-on-one battles rarely ended with a true winner. As if the chaos at school weren't enough, Tommy faced more trouble at home, where debt collectors frequently came knocking. The real reason he and his father had been forced to relocate was because, after the death of Tommy's mother, his dad had sunk deep into gambling debt, leaving them with no choice but to start over in a rough new neighborhood. Now, as a result of his father's problems, Tommy found himself face to face with 2 armed debt collectors at their doorstep. Thankfully, they didn't harm him. They simply issued threats and warned that the overdue debt had to be settled within 2 weeks. Later that night, Tommy was awakened by the sound of his father returning home. Despite everything, his father asked about Tommy's first day at school, his concern sincere, his love for his son still shining through just as it always had. Tommy chose to lie, assuring his father that everything was fine. But his father wasn't fooled. He sensed that something was off. After a moment of hesitation, Tommy finally admitted that 2 armed debt collectors had shown up earlier that afternoon. The news hit his father hard. The weight of his past mistakes settled heavily on him as he realized just how much his choices had cost his son. With a heavy heart, he promised to make things right. He then shared a glimmer of hope. He had just landed a new job in another city with better pay enough, he believed, to finally clear the debt and rebuild their lives. Tommy didn't mind being on his own for a while. He was mature enough to handle himself. Wanting to ease his father's burden, he even took a dishwashing job at a local restaurant run by the parents of one of his classmates. But one evening, a group of school thugs spotted him working there and seized the chance to pick on him just as they had before. At first, Tommy stayed quiet, trying to brush off their taunts. But when they started shoving him and laughing in his face, his patience finally snapped. Tommy sprang to his feet and swiftly knocked out 2 of the guys in the group. Just as he braced himself to take on the third, an unexpected figure stepped in, an older man named Jack, a local boxing promoter. Impressed by Tommy's raw fighting instincts, Jack offered him a spot in an underground, illegal match, promising a $600 payout. But Tommy didn't hesitate to push back. He firmly declined the offer and demanded $1,250 instead, warning Jack that if he wasn't willing to pay, he could go find someone else desperate enough to fight for less. After some tough back and forth, Jack eventually gave in and agreed to Tommy's price. They sealed the deal with a handshake right in front of Dawn, the daughter of the restaurant owner. The following night, Tommy showed up at the underground fight venue, where Jack introduced him to Noah, the man assigned to train and look after him throughout his time in the ring. Noah didn't sugarcoat anything. He warned Tommy that this wasn't going to be a regular boxing match. It was a brutal, no-rules brawl where fairness didn't exist. What made matters worse was Tommy's opponent, Black Death, a ruthless and infamous fighter with a reputation for using every dirty trick in the book to secure a win. To his surprise, Tommy ran into Romano, a classmate who was stunned to hear that his first opponent would be none other than Black Death. Concerned, Romano urged him to watch out for the fighter's devastating right punch. Taking the advice to heart, Tommy stepped into the ring, where the crowd had already thrown their support behind Black Death, cheering loudly as the infamous brawler made his entrance. Just as Noah had warned, the match was anything but fair. From the opening bell, Black Death fought dirty, landing a vicious elbow to Tommy's temple that drew blood, signaling the brutal tone the fight was about to take. The situation only escalated when Black Death landed a brutal blow to Tommy's groin. Despite the blatant dirty tactics, the referee remained indifferent. This was no ordinary fight, and anything went in this ring. But as the match wore on, Black Death began to show signs of fatigue. Seizing the opportunity, Tommy launched a relentless counterattack. With a flurry of precise, calculated strikes, he finally knocked his opponent down, sending Black Death crashing to the mat, unconscious. In the end, Tommy triumphed in his first match, leaving the audience, the bettors, and even the investors in stunned silence. But as he raised his hand in victory, the entire arena erupted into cheers. The following day, Tommy was called in to meet with Jack's boss, Mr. Horn, to collect his payment. Impressed by Tommy's raw fighting style, Horn offered him a chance to continue fighting for him. Despite the tempting offer, Tommy stood firm. He made it clear that he had agreed to a set amount, $1,250, and nothing more. As time went on, Tommy crossed paths with Dawn, and her disappointment was unmistakable when she learned that he had chosen the dangerous path of fighting in illegal matches. However, she felt a sense of relief when Tommy explained that he had only participated in one match and had no intention of pursuing a career as a fighter. Everything seemed to settle back to normal until Jack suggested that Tommy meet with Mr. Horn later that afternoon. From that point on, things began to take an unexpected turn. After several conversations, Horn finally dropped the bombshell. The two debt collectors who had shown up at Tommy's house were actually his own subordinates. Things took an even darker turn when Horn revealed that Tommy's father had fallen back into gambling and owed a staggering $15,000. But Horn, ever resourceful, had a solution. He proposed that Tommy fight for him in a few matches, offering a quick way to settle his father's debt. As expected, Tommy agreed to Horn's offer, determined to help his father pay off the mounting debt. On his way home from the meeting, Tommy stumbled upon his classmate Lincoln, who was being pursued by a gang. Unable to ignore the situation, Tommy rushed in to help, but the overwhelming number of gang members forced both of them to flee. Once they managed to escape the danger, Tommy and Lincoln found a quiet spot to catch their breath. As they talked, Lincoln revealed something surprising. Despite his young age, he was already married and had children. Lincoln explained that he had turned to illegal boxing, just like Tommy, in order to make enough money to support his family. That night, Tommy decided to watch Lincoln fight, only to see his friend struggling against a much larger opponent. But Lincoln refused to be overpowered. With quick thinking and determination, he flipped the match in his favor and secured an impressive victory. As the fight ended, Tommy's curiosity about Horn and the world of underground fighting deepened even further. After witnessing Lincoln's fight, Tommy decided to meet with Noah to learn more about Horn. During their conversation, Tommy uncovered that Horn was a legendary former boxer, having once held the world heavyweight title. Remarkably, Horn had only suffered one loss in his career. In the rematch, he exacted revenge by leaving his opponent with a permanent injury. However, even someone as accomplished as Horn couldn't escape the toll of time. After a devastating leg injury and multiple surgeries, his career came to a halt when his legs could no longer withstand the strain. Horn, no longer able to return to the ring due to his age, transitioned into a successful boxing promoter. The new role not only brought him substantial earnings, but also kept him out of harm's way. A few days after Tommy began his training, Dawn visited him at home, expressing concern over his recent absence from school. Eventually, Tommy opened up to her about his family's struggles and how they had pushed him into the world of illegal boxing. Dawn, showing understanding and compassion, reassured him, and from that moment on, their bond deepened. As Tommy's life began to improve with his new path as a fighter, Don remained by his side, supporting him every step of the way. Their connection grew stronger and a romantic relationship blossomed between them. Alongside forming a close friendship with Romano and Lincoln, Tommy found himself enjoying many fun moments with them every day. However, an unexpected tragedy struck one night during a fight. Romano, his close friend, was up against Short, a boxer who was ranked much lower than him. From the start, Romano dominated the match, controlling the pace and keeping his opponent on the defensive. But in the fifth round, everything changed when Short resorted to a dirty tactic, secretly slipping a strange substance into his gloves. The move shifted the momentum completely, turning the match in his favor. As the fight raged on, Short swiftly trapped Romano in a headlock, forcing him to inhale the strange substance oozing from his gloves. Almost immediately, Romano's vision became hazy, rendering him unable to fight as effectively. Seizing the moment, Short launched a brutal attack, pounding Romano relentlessly. Despite the blood pouring from his wounds, Romano showed no signs of surrender, almost as though he was reveling in the violence. Watching from the sidelines, Tommy couldn't bear the sight of his friend being brutalized. Realizing the referee had no intention of stepping in, Tommy rushed to the bell and rang it, halting the match and forcing an immediate end to the carnage. When the fight ended, Romano lay unconscious in the corner, unable to defend himself. Back home, Tommy received a strange call from his father, who sounded oddly calm. He asked about Tommy's well-being and mentioned that their plans to leave had to be postponed due to some unfinished business. The next day, Tommy visited Romano in the hospital, only to be devastated by the news that his friend was brain dead. The confirmation shattered him, filling him with rage and frustration. He couldn't let Short get away with what he had done. The chance for revenge came when Tommy was scheduled to face Short in a life-or-death match. During his fight with Tommy, Short attempted another dirty trick, but Tommy was ready this time. Having recognized the same move from his previous fight with Romano, he refused to be deceived. Tommy retaliated by landing a swift kick to Short's groin, causing him to double over in pain, then followed up with a barrage of powerful punches, leaving Short no chance to recover. Tommy won the fight in the first round. After Romano's death, Lincoln became Tommy's only remaining friend. However, during training one day, Lincoln suddenly collapsed, his body weakening. Doctors discovered a brain injury from a blow to the head the previous week, which explained his sudden loss of strength. They advised him to take at least 60 days off from boxing to recover. Lincoln was warned that continuing to fight could result in permanent brain injury. However, Horn had other plans. That evening, Tommy was shocked to see his upcoming opponent fighting another boxer. Concerned, he met with Horn, who revealed his plan. He wanted Tommy to fight Lincoln. Tommy was both angry and disappointed. With Lincoln's condition, he shouldn't be fighting, and Tommy didn't want to lose another friend. Despite Tommy's pleas, Lincoln was determined to step into the ring. For Lincoln, this fight was a rare chance to prove himself and earn Horn's promise to take him to the professional level. Realizing he couldn't change Lincoln's mind, Tommy tried to convince Horn to call off the match, but his efforts were in vain. As the fight drew closer, it became the most anticipated battle in the underground boxing world. Dawn, eager to support her boyfriend, prepared to cheer for Tommy. But unlike Lincoln's excitement, Tommy felt heavy-hearted and far from eager for the fight. As soon as the bell rang, Lincoln charged at Tommy, landing a series of powerful punches. Tommy, however, took a passive stance, not fighting back despite the hits. This angered Lincoln, and the fight quickly became a bore to the crowd. Horn, unable to tolerate the lack of action, threatened Tommy, saying if he didn't fight seriously, he would have Dawn arrested and could do anything to her. Despite the threat, Tommy hesitated, knowing one strong blow to Lincoln could be fatal. Reluctantly, to satisfy Horn and the crowd, Tommy decided to strike, though it pained him. Tommy tried to reason with Lincoln, warning that Horn only cared about money and wouldn't care if one of them died. But Lincoln attacked Tommy without hesitation. Realizing further attempts were futile, Tommy told Lincoln to fight with all his strength if he wanted to keep earning for Horn. However, Lincoln suddenly saw the truth in Tommy's words and stopped the fight, disappointing the audience. Horn, furious, climbed into the ring and ordered Lincoln to continue, but Lincoln stubbornly refused, intensifying the tension. Horn announced he would no longer work with Lincoln, losing control of his anger. Without warning, he struck Lincoln in the head, knocking him out of the ring. Seeing this, Tommy decided it was time to make Horn understand how wrong he was. Stepping into the ring, Tommy challenged Horn to a one-on-one fight. He set the terms: if Tommy won, Horn would pay off his father's debt. If Horn won, Tommy would work for him forever. Horn accepted the challenge without hesitation, but insisted they fight without gloves. As a former champion, Horn's experience gave him an early advantage, and his overconfidence showed as he mocked Tommy. However, this arrogance became his weakness. Despite his youth, Tommy was strong and smart. He quickly adapted, using tactics to turn the fight in his favor. First, he let Horn attack him, causing one of Horn's fingers to break. Then, Tommy provoked Horn in the same way he'd been mocked, triggering Horn's anger. Tommy realized that Horn's fury was his vulnerability, but that alone wouldn't be enough to win. Tommy cleverly feigned a broken arm, catching Horn off guard. At the right moment, he struck Horn's face, then landed 13 powerful punches that sent him to the ground. With Horn defeated, Tommy and his father were finally free from the crushing debt. The film ends with Tommy celebrating his victory with Lincoln and Dawn, marking the end of a difficult chapter in his life. The key lesson is about self-control. Don't let habits like gambling take over. It can ruin you financially, drag you into debt, and put both you and your loved ones at risk.